2024 Republican presidential candidate Nikki Haley is really struggling. She has now had a week to try to figure out an answer to what are the policy differences between you and Donald Trump. And she is still unable or refusing to cite any differences. Now, I think this is more about strategy and the possibility that Nikki Haley is actually running to be Trump's vice presidential nominee than it is about her inability to actually come up with differences between what she would do and what Donald Trump would do. But it's starting to get a little bit embarrassing. So we're going to look at a clip from Fox News Sunday, during which Nikki Haley was interviewed by Fox host Shannon Bream. Now, you might remember that last week, Nikki Haley was asked multiple times on days 2 and 3 of her campaign, what are the differences between you and Donald Trump? And she basically made it about identity. She's younger, was the long and short of what she said, refusing to really criticize Donald Trump. And what you have to understand is that this is very similar in some sense to what we started to see in 2015 and 2016, which is it's a version of ignoring Trump. Now, it's a different version. In 2015, 2016, many of the Republican candidates ignored Trump because they didn't want to take him seriously, and they assumed if we ignore him, he will go away. And yet what Trump did was he won by attrition. As one candidate would drop out, he would pick up the vast majority of their 2 or 3%. And then that would get him to 7, 8. And then they would keep ignoring him. And then someone else would drop out. And then he would pick up their 1 or 2%. And that would get him to 9, 10. And you understand. This is a different version of ignoring Trump, which is we don't like Trump. We know about the anti-MAGA people in the Republican Party. That's who we're targeting. But we're also not going to really put a line in the sand and draw any kind of distinction from Trump. So will it work? I don't think so. But I don't know that it's designed to work. If you're Nikki Haley and you're running for VP, this is arguably exactly what you have to do. But it is pathetic. Take a look at this. She says she's focused on Joe Biden. The problem is she's not going to get a chance to face Joe Biden unless she wins the Republican nomination.
Clearly, you think you're a better option than he is, or you wouldn't have gotten into the race. So where do you two differ?
I don't focus on President Trump, and it's amazing that the media wants to talk about that so much.
Well, it's not really amazing. There are 2 candidates, you and Trump. So if you're going to talk about this race at all, 17 months out or whatever, the natural thing would be you compare and contrast the 2 candidates. She won't allow that because she will draw no distinction from Trump other than his age and his gender.
We'll have to, because to get through the GOP primary, you will have to focus on him and Governor DeSantis or anybody else who gets in. To get to President Trump, you will have to get through that field.
My announcement was to a few thousand people in South Carolina. I just had packed rooms in New Hampshire. Not one person asked me about President Trump. Everybody wanted to talk about Biden. Everybody wanted to talk about the problems facing American families. I am focused on Joe Biden. He's the one that's the president. You know, I will tell you, I think Americans need to have options. I think they need a new generation. I think we need new energy going in. I think we need to leave the status quo of the past and start looking ahead. And that's what I'm going to do. And as much as people want to talk about other opponents,
she acts almost like it makes no sense that one would talk about the opponents in the race she's running. She's running in the Republican primary. So naturally, you would talk about her opponents. Right now, there's one. His name's Donald Trump.
Will be more. Many of them are my friends.
They're my friends.
Focus is on American families, how they're struggling, and
yeah. Remember last week, Donald Trump is my friend. Listen, there's two there's 2 reasonable possibilities here that explain this, other than she's clueless. One is she's not running for president; she's running for VP, and so the way to get in Trump's good graces is to do as well as she can in the primary without attacking Donald Trump. That's one possibility. The second possibility is she's counting on Trump getting indicted and having to drop out. And by not attacking Trump, maybe she will end up being seen the most favorably by the MAGA people, such that if Trump ends up indicted and dropping out, they will switch to supporting her. These are gambles. I have whether it can work is predictive in nature, and it really depends on whether those things happen. She also, here's like a bonus clip during the same interview. She sort of couldn't explain why she was running, which is really just a fail. Check this out. She's asked, like, why would someone vote for you? And she's like, why not?
Okay, so I want to put up something from the Wall Street Journal this week. They said you had a great day, your great rollout day, but they said you have to provide a rationale for your candidacy that you haven't done yet. They said you've got to answer this question about why you versus anybody else in the GOP field. You know, they're talking about the fact that you say, you know, America first, America should be powerful. Those are things that any GOP candidate is going to say. So why you?
Why not me? You know, I am the wife of a combat veteran. I'm a mother of 2 children, one who's getting married, and I see how hard it is for her to look at buying a home.
Are these credentials in Nikki Haley's mind to say, make her the president?
It's in college, and I see what he's dealing with woke education. You know,
her kid is dealing with woke education. So it follows logically that you would vote for Nikki Haley, huh?
The daughter of immigrant parents who are upset by what's happening at the border.
That's identity politics, of course.
I don't want to wait for someone else to fix this. I want to make sure we get in there and fix this.
Wow.
I'm not a lawyer. I'm an accountant. I've never worked in D.C., and I think it's time that we start putting a fire under what's happening in Congress. I think we need term limits. I think we need mental competency tests for people over the age of 75, and I think we need far more transparency than we're seeing today. And what I do strongly believe is the American people need options. I don't think you have to be 80 years old to be in Washington, D.C.
This is like getting sad. This is really getting sad. Why should anybody vote for you? Well, why not? And it's good to have an option that is under 80 years old. Whoa, pretty compelling stuff. I really like the vision of America that Nikki Haley is laying out here.
And I think it's time for us to start getting aggressive, getting back to what it means to end socialism in this country.
When did socialism start in this country? That would be my question to Nikki Haley. This is really sad and pathetic. And, you know, the most positive spin you can put on this is that this is a play on if Trump's indicted, she'll just be there or she'll be Trump's VP. But this is a campaign that is going nowhere very, very quickly. And we're going to continue following it and seeing if Nikki Haley is interested in putting together any kind of coherent explanation as to why she's running. One of our sponsors today is Fume. Fume is on a mission to accelerate humanity's breakup from the bad habits that consume far too many of us, including ones that harm our health. Fume is a natural diffusive device that uses plants and behavioral science to trade out your negative habit for a positive one. Fume is not a vape. It's a non-electronic device designed to transform your negative habits. Instead of pods filled with potentially harmful chemicals like a vape, Fume uses cores infused with plants like peppermint and cinnamon for delicious natural flavors. Fume's new version 2 model is snappy and tactile with an adjustable airflow dial and a magnetic end cap that's fun to fidget with. It's Fume's goal to make switching easy or even enjoyable. They have thousands of 5-star reviews from people just like you who have successfully switched when other solutions didn't work. Head to tryfume.com and use the code PACMAN to get 10% off today when you get the Journey Pack, which comes with 3 unique flavors and the new version 2 Fume. The link is down below.